Mr. Rodrigues, welcome to Lund and the Raoul Wallenberg Institute. In short, who is Mr. Rodrigues?
Thank you very much. First of all, it's a pleasure being here in Lund land. The question, who am I, it's a question to be answered during my life until the end. But conventionally the person say that I'm Almiro Rodrigues, I'm working as a judge, and I'm from Portugal. I worked in ICTY, in Court of Bosnia-Herzegovina, and now I'm working as international judge in the Constitutional Court of Kosovo.
And you are going to give a speech here in Lund, just to get to hear what your focus is. What will you speak about here in Lund?
My focus will be mainly, in a way, making some kind of point of status of human rights after Raoul Wallenberg. I'm going to start from the point of view that if Raoul Wallenberg would be here today and look at what was done in that field, maybe he would have a lot of things to say.
Do you think he would have been happy with what he would see?
I think one part yes, and another part much concerned about, because there are a lot of things to be done yet.
But to start on the positive note, what would he be happy with?
For instance, to see that there is an institution who followed his idea, who developed a lot human rights, has programs overseas, trained a lot of people, not only in Sweden but abroad. And this, I think, the Raoul Wallenberg would be proud of that was done. But as I said, a lot of things would be a matter of concern.
What would he be concerned with?
For instance, the social, economical and cultural rights are not yet developed enough in a way that we could have a just world for all. And not only inside the states, but inclusively relationship in the interstates. If we look at Africa, for instance, we'll see and we'll think immediately what I'm thinking about. There is no possibility to have a just world with the situation Europe and other continents maintain in Africa. So it's a lot of things to be done there. When we have angry people, when we have people without the basic conditions, human rights are not complied with.
And isn't that one of the main problems, that we have international laws and a lot of rules, but when it comes to conflict, many people seem to forget or not care about all the rules that do exist?
We live, in my view, in an absurd world. I'm not a professor, I'm not a teacher, I'm a practitioner, and I'm speaking from what I'm observing when exercising my duties. We see that Raoul Wallenberg Institute, for instance, the main subject is international humanitarian law, which is the law of armed conflicts, and human rights. But this kind of absurd in these two branches of the law, because international humanitarian law is the only branch of law where killing is lawful. This is kind of absurd, because the essential right of a human being is the right to live, is the right to life. How can we accept to have a branch of the law where killing is lawful? So this is kind of schizophrenia we have to solve. And maybe Raoul Wallenberg, who existed, who experienced these things in armed conflict, would say clearly the best right, the best human right is having a world free of weapons. Because we know that there are 4 or 5 countries which produce 80% of the weapons. And the weapons, when a person has a weapon, there is a big temptation to use that weapon.
Does that mean that you are very pessimistic in the future? I mean, as you say, we see a lot of weapons, the world is not very nice in many ways. Do you see many conflicts also in the future?
I have been working with armed conflicts since '97. And in a moment I said to myself, it's enough. Something has to be done to prevent armed conflicts. And it was for that that I accept this challenge of working in the Constitutional Court in Kosovo, because it's the way, it's applying human rights as a way of preventing armed conflicts and this kind of absurd violation where killing is lawful. So I'm not, if I can say, pessimistic in the way, when I look back, the things were already worse and they improved, which means that if I look to the future, I really hope things can be improved. And they can be improved with a small contribution of each of us. I'm giving my contribution modestly, but it's my contribution. So I believe really that my co-citizens, the other human beings, will give their own contribution, and with the small drops will make clearly an ocean.
But I know you're also a psychologist. And it seems, I'm not a psychologist, hopefully I'm wrong, but there seems to be something in us as human beings that can trigger this urge even to kill other human beings. Can that be eliminated?
You know, I presided in ICTY the genocide case of Srebrenica. The question which crossed the trial, which was present at any time to me, was how human beings can do these kind of things to other human beings. I passed different, if I can say, hypotheses of answer from the economical point of view, sociological point of view, even psychoanalytical point of view, but there is one now I have, maybe it's provisional, because I'm trying to find the definitive one, and this is: a person who is not prepared to die is prepared to kill. Mm-hmm. Meaning, if a person doesn't feel well in himself, doesn't feel happy, doesn't feel full of happiness, because everything in principle with him is solved, is prepared. And if we look to some personalities, we know from the history, we clearly conclude that these personalities were not happy. So I think that it's really important to do something for the human beings to be happy. If we have the way of preventing is exactly education. Raoul Wallenberg Institute plays a big role on that. So education on human rights is really definitely important for the persons to live, to learn, to live together with the difference. Because sometimes the problem is that we are afraid of what is different. And this makes us defend ourselves, and usually when a person is afraid of something, the first reaction is to attack. So it's time for the human beings to live with others, regardless of the color of the skin, of ethnicity, of nationality.
But this has been said for decades, and still we don't see much progress.
Is the difference in between the speech and the actions? We know that. I've worked with a lot of aspects like that one, and we see that there is improvement. Because if we see that things didn't improve, so it is not worthy to do, it's even worse. So because the world is made for us to be engaged, for us to pay attention, for us to develop actions. But it's true that having text, like international conventions, like laws, is already good, is much better than have nothing. Mm. So I think that we should speed up a bit, because the problem is that the time is passing with a lot of human beings suffering because of the offenses of the human rights, but we have to be aware that we should pay attention and go further.
As we are in Lund at the Raoul Wallenberg Institute, I'd like to hear how would you describe Raoul Wallenberg? What impression has he made on you?
I can say that it's easy for me to approach Raoul Wallenberg. First of all, there is, if I can say, let me say like that, Raoul Wallenberg II. There is one Portuguese, Aristide Sousa Mendes, who did in Bordeaux more or less at the same time what Raoul Wallenberg was doing in Budapest. So very soon, through Aristide Sousa Mendes, I reached and I arrived to Raoul Wallenberg. Further that, I had links and so information about the Raoul Wallenberg Institute working. But the main point is the best honor we can pay to Raoul Wallenberg is exactly to say that is a person for sure different of the others in the circumstance. And in this circumstance, Raoul Wallenberg had a very high level of conscience of humanity, because there were a lot of persons in the same circumstance who could have done the same thing. And we can ask why Raoul Wallenberg did and the others no. Why Aristide Sousa Mendes did and the others no.
What's your answer?
And the answer is that, in my view, they had a more advanced conscience of humanity. They were very well advanced in the perception, in understanding of what a human being is. And I know, for instance, that Aristide Sousa Mendes had at the time a big family with 11 children. He knew that he was putting at risk everything, even though he did it. And he did it because the high level of conscience, of humanity, and of what a woman being is, was very high, very high. So I like really to pay honor and admiration to this kind of persons, including Raoul Wallenberg, which means I was last week in Colombia to discuss the issue of enforced disappearance. And I was thinking about Raoul Wallenberg. The drama we have in enforced disappearance is that sometimes we have a body, a known identity, and we have persons who disappeared. And it's incredible. There is a dramatic situation and aspect on Raoul Wallenberg's disappearance, but in another way, we know that Raoul Wallenberg is still alive. We can at least believe on that. And this is really a very strong for Sweden, for Swedish citizens, and for the citizens of the world, knowing that one person like that never died.
It's in Sweden there is a debate that Raoul Wallenberg, he hasn't really been that, I wouldn't say well known, but he seems to be more respected outside of Sweden. What's your impression? How big is Raoul Wallenberg globally, would you say?
I think that the dimension of Raoul Wallenberg overcomes the dimension of the world, in my view. It's really enormous. It's only the only thing I can say, because when we are before persons with that dimension, I think the best honor is being speechless.
And how big an inspiration has Mr. Wallenberg been to you?
Enormous. I must say that when conducting and presiding the genocide, Srebrenica trial, I was permanently touched by the suffering of the victims. I think that the suffering of human beings was what inspired, if I can say, Raoul Wallenberg. Raoul Wallenberg took the actions he took because of the victims, because of the suffering. So Raoul Wallenberg is always present, if I can say, in our actions when we are dealing with human rights. He's still alive in this sense.
And are there any new Raoul Wallenbergs active today, would you say?
I think that we have, I wouldn't like now, if I can say, to distinguish with another actor, because I think that we must take each of us as fighters, as activists in defending human rights. So we leave this place, the special place for persons like Raoul Wallenberg and others. Today, in my view, we should be together all for the big actions we have to develop.
Okay, Mr. Rodrigues, thank you very much for this interview. Thank
It
you
was
so
a
much.
pleasure.
And good luck in the future.
Thank you very
Thank
much, and good luck for you too.
Thank you.